Hey, Master Chairman, let me ask just a couple quick questions, but before I do that, let me say thank you. You have jumped into a different chair in a hurry in this process. So we went through the confirmation process for you, and then now you've taken on additional responsibilities. I appreciate your leadership and for stepping in and being able to take this on in a hurry. Based on some of the Inspector General report of some of the onboarding for previous Administrator Brock, Long, I want to make sure that your onboarding is going well and that you're getting the information, because the Inspector General noted that there were a few career staff that gave Mr. Long incorrect information at the very beginning, and it led to a lot of stir in that process. So I want to make sure for you, your onboarding process is going well.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate support and confirmation. Yes, the issue around vehicles has been resolved. You know, whatever the previous practice was, we stopped. We just actually hired a brand new continuity professional from DHS to help manage the entire portfolio of continuity. This is what this vehicles fall into, and we don't anticipate any bumps in the road when it comes to this issue.
All right, that'd be helpful for you and for the agency as a whole, obviously. Let me talk to you about some of the grant operations there. Operation Stone Garden Grants has been ongoing for a while. The Inspector General has taken a look at this and has asked some questions about just oversight, responsibility, overtime pay, functioning, why it's in FEMA, why it's not in other areas. This deals specifically with border issues as well. Have you had any opportunity to be able to take a look at that and to be able to try to evaluate the Stone Garden Grant Program?
I have not, sir. I don't know the details of it, but I'd be happy to follow up with you and your staff on some of the issues you are concerned with.
Let's follow up on that as well. The other one is an issue that Congress responded to previously. That was a question that had hung out for years on houses of worship in FEMA and disaster relief. That had been an unanswered question for a long time, whether saying houses of worship could engage in that, could not engage in that. Congress obviously made that very clear to say absolutely they can. There seems to be some questions on just getting the paperwork and the process and the information out to the field. We've had a couple of synagogues, churches, others saying, hey, they're still not getting answers at this point. Do you know the status of that engagement or the instructions getting to the field for houses of worship?
Yes, sir. And I'll just use Puerto Rico as an example. I think we had already begun the disaster recovery for Puerto Rico, and then the rules changed on that. We had some inconsistent messaging. I think once it was authorized for houses of worship to have disaster assistance, we have rectified that. We are working to make sure that any house of worship that requires disaster assistance in accordance with the law is able to apply. So we're working not only in Puerto Rico, but across the country to make sure that we deliver that resource to those in need, to include houses of worship.
Yeah, the basic response of Congress was that houses of worship be treated like any other nonprofit, yes, that we don't have a bias against them because of their faith, that they're treated equally and fairly the same.
We agree, sir.
So I appreciate your engagement on that. There have been some questions as well about National Guard drone use during disasters. Again, this has risen up to say that there's additional layers, that when there's a disaster, FEMA makes requests to the National Guard to be able to bring their drones out to be able to identify people that may be trapped in debris, whatever it may be. Is that process working out smoother for making the requests, and what's the bureaucratic red tape you've got to go through to be able to make those requests?
Yes, sir. So what I know that we successfully used National Guard drones in the California wildfires in Florence. And this is a mission request that typically happens through our federal partners, in this case, the National Guard. I think we're still working about how we use them to our advantage as a federal team to make sure that we use that technology to, again, speed response and speed recovery. So we have working groups right now within FEMA and with our partners to better understand how we can use drones more effectively for the American people.
So my specific question is though on the speed of the request, and from the point of making the request to actually they get a chance to be able to implement it. How's that process going? Because in a disaster, you can't wait a week.
I don't know of any issues where timing was an issue, but I'll follow up to make sure that that is not an issue today.
Okay, thank you. We will have ongoing questions just about oversight. It's the nature of this conversation. Say we're all taking care of taxpayer dollars in that efficiencies. Disaster relief funds, that request has gone up significantly in the past several years. We still have additional questions on how the oversight is going on that. Do you have any plans to change the structure of oversight of those dollars and the transparency of how it is spent back to this committee?
I don't know exactly about the oversight when it comes to DRF. I mean, I think I think we treat it like every other tax dollar that we have. We have tight controls over all money, no matter if it's in the DRF or it's just operating support money. I will check to see if there's additional controls that either need to be improved or added to make sure that we have high confidence how we spend that money.
Great. We will follow up with you with some specifics on that. So, Madam Chairman, let me yield back to allow some others to go since we're running close on time.